Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the 6th race in the Masters SA series. Tonight we are racing the Keith Hill After Party route. Fast and flat. Finishing off on a chunky climb. Got a good turnout again to this ZHR Masters Europe race. Very nice. Here's hoping we have a good clean race. I'm sure we will. Even though we've had DQs on the race winners for 3 weeks in a row now. At least those are not guys in our league, for what it's worth. Yeah, great turnout. Let's show these Europeans how it's done. And off we go. Liesl Prentice, welcome. I wish we had more ladies in this league. Maybe we'll work on that in future. Yo. Good turnout this. Keep in mind the number you see down here is mostly my age category, which would be... I think I'm enrolled in the wrong category, but that doesn't matter, I'm not racing. I've turned 35 halfway through the series. Here we go, Mark Kavanagh. Chris Grenier, welcome. Some of the names in our Masters SA series. So if you haven't dialed in before, essentially we've put together a little series for South African sub-vets, vets and older. We've tried to up the credibility a little by making the series invite only. We had a few characters in we knew and trusted in the industry, on cycling I guess. Invite their mates, invite people they knew and trusted. And then on top of that, we had everyone do a weigh-in video. We had to be able to verify the dates, verify that it's them on the scale, calibrated scale, and have a look at their setup to ensure that it's not specifically the trainer setup. Unfortunately, one of the limitations we have there is you need either a proper smart trainer, which either has a power meter or estimates power very accurately, or you need a power meter if you're on a traditional trainer, which works perfectly fine and is perfectly representative of your effort. But unfortunately, you will be at a distinct disadvantage in the sprints. If you're not on a smart trainer, you're going to be able to put out massive watts because the traditional trainers tend to run out of resistance when the guys are putting down 1,000 watts or more. Andre Hubert of the Hermanus Zwifters team. Hermanus Masters Zwifters. Okay, let me throw on screen today's route for you, or at least a profile of today's route. So this is the Keith Hill After Party route. It is a event-only route, which is nice. Fast and flat, and then around the 31-kilometer mark, there's a nice climb up Keith Hill. Keith Hill, I believe, was introduced a little bit later to the London course, where Box Hill used to be the toughest hill, tougher than Fox Hill. Keith Hill is now tougher. Although I need to double check that against the big hill in Surrey. Although this might be the big hill in Surrey. Should have educated myself. My apologies. But anyway, yeah, I fully expect the race to stay together and then split up as we hit that climb. Ultimately, one for the climbers. But to win it, you need to stay with them. We'll go hard. For the majority of the course. The group will split, but I expect most of our favorites will stay together. So, first across the line is not necessarily our winner. We use a service called Zwift Power. It started out, call it unofficially, sort of an API that dials in with Strava to pull your Zwift data and performance, and it was used by a few of the league organizers and race organizers to verify results and rank results and such. In the days before Strava had that functionality themselves, it's the one API service they've had a really good symbiotic relationship with, so they've been supportive despite the recent revamp and restructuring of the API offering. Zwift Power is still going strong. The major issue with Zwift Power is GDPR, which is the European Union privacy legislation, which essentially restricted the extent to which a third-party service could use your data, which means there's quite a tedious opt-in process to be able to use Zwift Power, giving them all the permissions to use your data, to be able to extract your very accurate results after these races. But it's worth it, and nowadays a requirement for any credible Zwift event in any case. Well, it's always been a requirement. So despite the new functionality in Zwift with regards to results, there's no real nice website, there's no real nice database, there's no backward-looking data which will reference your performances against previous performances and disqualify you if they see anything dicey. Disqualify you if they see a massive shift in your weight. Disqualify you if you put out a 5-minute power effort that should put you in the world at the head of a World Tour team. So it's just another control that we insist on to keep things as credible as possible. Then, as we say hello to Zahir, one of our leading riders. I think he's sitting joint 3rd or 4th at the moment. We can have a look at our league in a second. So, equipment choice on a day like this. As we struggle to find Zahir. There we go. He's on the Tron bike. Okay, he went for the whole all-round effort. You've got a couple of options on a route like this, depending, I guess, on your experience and what equipment you've purchased in the Zwift world. Through earning drops. Drops are essentially the Zwift currency you get for riding miles in Zwift. get 20 for every kilometer. No, I'm lying. That's experience points. But in any case, as you accumulate the mileage, you accumulate drops, which you can spend in the drop store. For the moment, I don't think you can spend real currency there yet. I'm sure it's some money-making idea they've got waiting for down the line. As we say hello to Dusty Day, racing his second event in the series, helping the Zwift Smashers team. So, equipment choice. You've got two choices today. Assuming sticking with the bunch is marginal for you, and ultimately that's going to give you the best time, regardless of whether you're going to win it or not. You've got to stick with the bunch. You would go with a nice aero outfit. To say an aero frame like the S-Works Venge disc, the new one, which is been rated as the fastest bike in Zwift, in combination, and only if in combination with the Zip 858 900 disc at the back wheel combo. That's your fastest bike on a flat route, and what it'll do in this situation is allow you to have a slightly easier ride than someone with a different equipment choice, like this guy who went for a full climbing setup. But we'll get to that. However, if you want to win today, a different strategy would be to go for a climbing setup, like Nick Porteous here did. And essentially what you've got to do is stick with the bunch, work a little bit harder to stick with the bunch, because you won't have the same aero setup and won't be able to go at 52 kilometers an hour on the flat as easily as the next guy. But when you hit that climb at the finish, you will have a massive advantage. I don't know what the effect is on Keith Hill, but on a longer climb, the numbers are astronomical for the same wattage. So it'll be significant. It'll be in excess of 5 or 10 seconds, I'm sure. So that's sort of one potential race-winning strategy. And then the other one, if you didn't want to bet the farm on either of the strategies I've mentioned, because with the aero setup you would have a significant advantage in the flats and save your legs, but once you hit that climb, maybe you'll fall off. You'll have a tough time sticking with the guys who had lighter bikes at that stage. So maybe that's a good strategy for a guy like me, who has zero aspirations to win this race. And for me, sticking with the bunch would help a lot. And once they drop me on the hill, that's it. That was going to happen anyway. I'd rather have it happen later than sooner. The light combination has the advantage of giving you that extra kick once you hit the climb. The in-between combination, which is not a combination at all, would be this Tron bike, which you see a lot of guys have chosen, which is an excellent all-around bike. It is good on the flats and it is good on the climb, but you will sit somewhere in between. So you'll have an easier ride than somebody on a lightweight bike on the flat, but then you'll have a tougher time on that final climb. But then you'll have more legs up to that point, so it's still anyone's game. Maybe you're going to have to back yourself to put out some serious wattage in absolute terms relative to the guys on the climbing bikes at that stage, because you'll have the fresher legs. It should be interesting. I don't think equipment choice will determine the winner, but it certainly will influence the outcome, will influence the gaps. Maybe we should check out all our favorites and see what equipment they went with. Revenant, off the front. Looking good. 2-second gap he's got on the field here. It's just leaving him out there. Josh Gray is one of ours as well. Mark Elliott, I just saw. Welcome to Mark. I think he's one of the other guys lying joint fourth. Maybe we should have a look at those tables before I speculate anymore. Here we're on board with David Garrett of Team Hartleaf. He's done particularly well on courses with this kind of finish. But he doesn't have any say in which courses we ride, of course. Neither do I. Because we just go with whatever ZHR chooses. So on top of everything else, the filters I've already mentioned, the reason we raise ZHR is, okay, it's sub-vets and older only, so you need to be 30. And they are particularly good at policing, particularly aggressive at disqualifying guys during the race. Of course, after the race is one thing. We can filter the results, and Zwift Power does a great job of doing that. But during the race, dodgy numbers can influence the outcome, even though that result won't necessarily be allowed to stand. Unfortunately, ZHR are particularly good at addressing that and handling that, and DQing guys on Z-Power that are influencing the race to an extensive degree, or simply putting out numbers that are not credible. So we saw Christian Jans van Rensburg heading to the front. This route is flat as a pancake, so the group remains chunky. In a race like this, it's a good strategy to hide in the bunch towards the back half if you're confident the bunch won't easily split, which I'd say, especially for the first, say, 75% of the race, you could quite confidently bet on. And ultimately save your legs. The drafting benefit is a little bit exaggerated in Zwift. It is a game. It's not meant to emulate cycling 100%. Certainly not. There's serious gamification going on. You'll see the riders also have power-ups, which they activate: aero power-ups, drafting power-ups, climbing power-ups, breakaway power-ups, even an invisibility power-up, the so-called ghost power-up. So it's all about the gamification, and guys can specialize in Zwift somewhat, be particularly good in Zwift relative to riders that they might not be as strong against in the outside world, and of course the other way around also true. You'll find excellent outside riders who are maybe not that adept at doing well at Zwift. And some of the modeling is a bit iffy. I don't think you want to be particularly short in Zwift, because you seem to lose out on the downhills. I mean, you're tiny, you're short and tiny, you're a tiny rider. You seem to lose out on the flats and the downhills in terms of their modeling. In the real world, those riders do particularly well at hiding away in the bunch, drafting other people. Anyway, that modeling is always changing. Maybe we'll see it change again. Let's have a look at our league standings. So, this is our little result sheet. We've got Tiens van der Bank was our winner last week. But then saying something for consistency, because Tiens has won the most races outright, but he's still only lying in second place. Whereas David Garrett, who's had more consistent top 4 performances, he's 10 points ahead of Tiens. So this is our current standing in the individual competition. Some nice prizes up for grabs for the top 3 in that competition. Alright, so here is joint third with Ignis Oosthuizen. Well done. And Mark's now lying 5th. Okay, I see. But it's very tight here. I mean, 33 to 29 points separates 2 to 5. So it's still anyone's game. And then, of course, one of the peculiarities of this competition is we're going to use your 6 best results only. There are 8 races in the series, so that will really shake things up as we change and some of those races fall away. Say you've collected, 7, 8th places, you'll have some good points, but eventually you're gonna miss out by not having those high points results. So how this competition works is number 1 at each race collects 10 points. Second collects 9 points, down to number 10 that collects 1 point. We add these together, your 6 best results, and that'll be your ultimate points in the league and determine your final league standing. In the teams competition, that's a bit different. We take the top 3 riders for every team, maximum 5 riders per team, so you need 3 riders to complete each and every race. We add that together as aggregates, and we get a nice teams result there. As you can see, Hartleef building up a nice advantage, which is to be expected given that they're straddling the podium there. So clearly they're doing good times. But second, third, fourth, that's very tight. It's still anyone's match here, so that's quite nice. We've seen Hermanus Masters coming back from 5th position onto the podium and looking to upset the apple cart and overtake White Ink there. As we head back to London, this bunch is going nowhere. Well, it's going somewhere, but it's not really fracturing. As we saw on the profile, there's really no opportunity to break it up. The climbs are just too small. Unless you're really on the rivet at 200 beats a minute heart rate, sticking with this group, you're not going to get shaken off. I'm sure our top 20 to 30 guys are all still here. And I have seen most of them. So the age categories. We've got A, B, C, D in the race, which on this on the platform that's just a function of the number of categories available. It only goes down to E. So A straddles 30 to 39, B straddles 40 to 49, and so on. However, at the end of the day, the results will be broken down by UCI age category. 30 to 34, 35 to 39, 40 to 45, and so on, which is quite nice. And on our own result sheet, we do acknowledge those winners, and though we don't have an outright competition for them, yet. We do acknowledge them. So you'll see these are our age category performances from last week. Should have a higher res image of this to show you. So we do acknowledge them. Hopefully in future we can do a bit more with it. This is age category racing after all. We didn't invite the young guns to participate. Telling ourselves this is a way to keep it civilized. So in the red bikes and beers jerseys, you've got the 30-39s. In the green jerseys, you've got the 40-49s. In the blue jerseys, you've got 50-59, and yellow is older 60 and older. For which I see we have about 3 in this group. So the nice thing about a race like today is somebody puts the hammer down at the front here. Dave McFadden and Warwick Minkley. Warwick's in the league. The nice thing about this race this evening, unlike the previous one, is there shouldn't be a bench sprint. It should be quite easy for us to see the ultimate result. If I had invested more in my production, maybe I could have done instant replays or the like, but we're not quite there yet. But this evening that should be relatively easy. Sometimes we'll see 2 or 3 riders take it to the line, but even then it's not that difficult to see who wins. Because these guys are on the rivet. You can see the heart rates are quite high. And they will give their all on Keith Hill. So they blow up. And that creates a nice, easy separation for an audience to keep an eye out on. And that's why we love the mountain stages of the Tour de France. We love seeing the GCs crack. Christian Janssen van Rensburg. Always at or near the front. Can't help himself in the real world or otherwise. Berneru, one of our stronger guys from Johannesburg. I should mention, one of the oddities of this race, of the series, is the gents dialing in from Joburg. are sitting at 1650 meters to 1700 meters, maybe even a bit higher, depending on where they live. Altitude. Versus us down here in Cape Town, sitting near sea level. That does make a significant physiological difference to your ability to produce watts. So we should point that out. It's not all the same, as much as we try to. Perhaps someday we'll have a grand finale where we put everyone in the same room at the same altitude. Here we go, somebody's using an aero power-up. Not a great spot to use it, but maybe they're just getting rid of it in the hopes of getting a nicer one for the upcoming climb. For the climb, you really want a featherweight power-up. It removes 9.5 kilograms from your weight. So it's quite simple. You input your height, you input your weight, and your performance is determined by your watts per kilogram, power per kilogram. Adjusted for where you're sitting in the draft. This bunch, that's obviously quite significant. And then a much smaller adjustment for your equipment. Just like real life. So if the equation, is particularly for a hill where the drafting benefits is less significant, is power output divided by weight, you can reduce that denominator by 9.5 kilograms. That is massive. It's only for 10 seconds, but for those 10 seconds you will climb a lot faster. Most of these guys more than 10%. If you're on the rivet, there's a big difference between 8 and 8.8 watts per kilogram. Mark's looking good here tonight. That heart rate's very steady. So he'll have something in the legs for the climb. Trevor Davies. Looks like the teams are well represented. Team White Ink, Putek, Hartley, Vattenbrekers, Hermanus Swifters. Hermanus Masters Swifters, sorry. HFS or Haasberger. But there will be separation in the team's competition, unlike last week. Because of this climb. Climbs tend to cause nice separations. There's a similar course we did a while ago in Innsbruck, But that is there's a short 400 meter 8% climb on each lap, whereas on these laps it's just plain flat. So that did cause some breakups of the group, and by the time we hit that final climb, it was only about 25 riders. This group's much bigger. The team's competition won't change as much today. There will be more fresher legs today. See a really hard effort on the climb. Some of these guys are looking quite good in terms of heart rate. The only view I have. Grant looking very fresh. Seems we've got an attack off the front. Rudy Kellerman getting a gap. Covered by Jock van Zyl. And the bunch is back together. Another power-up that would be useful, though I'd rate not as useful, unless you had enormous power, I guess, would be that ghost power-up. Because what happens is attacks get marked. So if you can get away without being spotted, it's just 10 seconds, but you'll be invisible. You can time that quite nicely and get a big gap before being spotted. But he feels quite long, so would that be valuable? Maybe. You can really break the field and check them off. But we've seen early attacks are brought back more often than not on these hilltop finishes. ZHR seems to be fond of them. This is the third one of the 6 races we've been doing in the series. So in 6 weeks, 3 of them have been like that. This one, the one in Innsbruck that I've mentioned, and one in New York. We did the New York KOM after party route. Hilltop finishes make for good viewing. I just wish there was some element to break up the field a bit earlier as well. At Innsbruck, of course, is a lot of fun to watch. "30 kilometers in. I believe we're about to turn to Heath Hill. Ah yeah, so this is what was happening. There's a banner here where all the riders will collect power-ups, and they were ditching those before hitting this banner in the hopes of getting something more useful for climbing. The fact that you weren't seeing more being used means there's probably quite a few that already had power-ups, just keeping those in the pocket for that climb, which is what it all comes down to today. Dave McFadden on the front there, brought back. Out for sheer. Oof, somebody just spent his featherweight power up. That's not a good idea. Somebody didn't watch the race briefing. Martin Hillerman, also one of our top ranked riders. Chris Cronje of Hartleef, Jens van der Bank. I'm here to stalk Tiens's equipment choice. He puts a lot of thought into his equipment. I can only spot him. Very tight right now. Okay, so Keith Hill is on the Surrey side, obviously. This course is all modelled on the Prudential Ride London, or the London Surrey. Gran Fondo. Now, because they couldn't program a 160 kilometer route into Zwift, I guess they could, but the problem is if you've got 3,000 riders in world spread across 160 kilometers, it could get very, very lonely, so they choose not to do that. Because the idea of the platform is to be more sociable. In London, how it works is whenever you go into the underground, you sort of magically teleport to other locales. In this case, Keith Hill, which I believe is quite a ways outside of London. Zahir has also done well on these finishes. I'm sure he's worth watching. We might have to DQ him for the horrific Aero helmet. Keep meaning to speak to him about that. Okay, we are officially on the climb now. As we see an attack, now this nationless individual going off the front has a credibility issue. Beef, that's not a real name. No nationality declared. Okay, we fully expect that to be filtered out and will not be part of our league regardless. Hopefully it doesn't influence our league, even though we do see some of our riders following him. He's gapped them. Okay, that's fine. Before we get any more significant attacks, let me show you the profile for this climb. This is it. See, there's a bit of respite at some stage, and it's just a long drag to the finish. The average overall gradient is 5.2%, but this section here will obviously be quite a bit more. Maxes out at 10.8 very, very momentarily. It's a nice climb. As we see the friends of our group already over that crest, about to hit the most challenging portion of the climb. As we see Zaza attack using a drafting power-up. He was trying to get some draft from the Beefan rider. And being brought back. We can get the helicopter view now. So we get on board with Murray. We'll see now we're seeing massive separation. Lots of guys being dropped. Less than half of that group was left already. Just on the first part of the climb. So it really splits the race apart, these climbs. As somebody already uses their featherweight power up, they're fed up, they need a break. They need to keep this pace with a little less effort. As we see David Garrett go early again. With his teammate Chris Cronje in tow. And Zahir 2 seconds off of them. At the front of the chasing group. See now, these relaxed heart rates are suddenly not so relaxed anymore. That's close to my max. This is a hard effort, no matter how you look at it. We'll probably still see them open up for some kind of a sprint if they're still together near the top. Chris at 194 beats him. Wow, that is well in excess of my maximum. You see Ignis back with the chasers. Guess he needs to be sensitive to not bringing back his own teammates. But this M. Brook is doing most of the work. As we see Chris using a featherweight power-up. They're just putting it all down now. Ignis still on Mr. Brook's wheel. Yellow old boy, I think, has been disqualified. Sorensen, recall, these races. Bring him here. Right at the pointy end of the field. Anyway, he's not the one bridging the gaps at the moment. Okay, so Ignis has got a bit of a gap on these chasers. Excellent effort. Trevor Davies, well done. With Mark Elliott. It's still a long way to go. The top of this climb, as you can see. At the front, you can see M. Brook has bridged the gap to David and Ignis. Chris is off by 1 second. And about 3 seconds behind Chris, we've got Christian Janssen van Rensburg, Murray, Dave McFadden, and the rest are not in the league. David, did he go too early again, or is he leaving something? Has he got a kick for us? It does flatten out a lot towards the end. Ignis doing well. Stay with the front, guys. I really hope the results stand this week. Be fun wherever you are. All of them. 4 weeks of winners being disqualified. Great. Would be like a doping scandal. As we see Ignis activating his aero power-up. I think he needs all the help he can get. I would have left that for the flat section. Oof, he's getting a good gap now. He's got 5 seconds on David, our next league participant. Excellent effort, Ignis. Keep it up. See, he's gone for that lightweight build. Betting it all on the climb. And here it flattens out. This is where that aero power-up would have been useful. But I think he's going to win this comfortably anyway. He's got a 7-second lead on the next guy and a 14-second lead on the next South African. This is Christian Janssen van Rensburg. David falling back a bit now. I think this is going to be Christian's best finish in the series so far. Okay, I told you this was much easier to see a result. Well done, Ignis. Congratulations. As we watch Christian. Dave McFadden on his wheel. Well done. David Garrett coming through in 3rd position. Sorry, Dave's invited, but he's not participating in the league per se. And Murray. I might have missed someone there. I might have missed a couple, sorry. Sorry, guys. Okay, well done. Well done to our winners. Great race as always. That is tough as nails. Really, really, really hard racing. It was a great effort.